your source for everything paranormal. Para X. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Para X, its affiliates, or its sponsors.
Merry meet and merry part, bright the cheeks and warm the heart. For tread the circle thrice about, to keep unwelcome spirits out. Bide within the law you must, in perfect love and perfect trust. Mind the threefold laws you should, 3 times bad and 3 times good. These 8 words the read fulfill, and ye harm none, do what ye will.
Welcome to Stirring the Cauldron on the Para X Radio Network. And now, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Hey, merry meet everybody, and welcome. Now, tonight's show is going to be a little bit different because I've joined forces with Lillee Allee, host of new Aeon Now, that follows Stirring the Cauldron on Thursday nights. And it's going to be 2 hours of us. So I hope you can take it, you guys. I thought that, since people listen to us each week, it's probably our time to listen to the listeners. So I guess we're calling the show Ask the Witches. And in order to ask the witches or share comments, you need to be over here in the Para X chat room. So if you're not here already, make your way over to paraxradionetwork.com. All right, Lillee, jump right in.
Hey, I'm here. I'm excited.
Are you?
Yeah, I am pretty excited. Of course, I don't think I had it as bad as poor Sarge did, but I had a lot of smoke inhalation today.
Aye.
So this is not seen in central New York. It's not seen on the East Coast. So I guess we're getting our just desserts, okay, with the bats and all of that. But it's sort of weird and it's sort of scary. Today we got more of the smells of chemicals than we did the nice smells.
Oh, now see, with all our wildfires, I don't think we ever smelled chemicals. We only smelled smoke and burning things. What kind of chemicals?
I don't know. It smells like, it was funny because it wasn't that bad at my house. But when I started driving north, because I had to go to a meeting, it got progressively worse. And you know that taste in your mouth when there's an electrical fire? You can just even taste it?
But I'll take your word for it.
Yeah. And the first time we had this where it was really, 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 really bad, I was really happy because it smelled just like a campfire. This is not a campfire. I can handle a campfire. And our lovely governor is telling us that she'll let us know if it's really, really, really bad. But they extended our weather alert because it must be really, really, really bad. And, smog alert, health alert, and nothing that you've ever not dealt with, because back in the 80s when I visited California, they had smog alerts, Marla.
Yeah.
I remember those. And I swear we thought we were dying.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't like this at all.
No, it changes. But I remember when I was growing up, we did have tons of smog. Now, we don't anymore. For some reason, it's not so bad. Our air quality is okay. But I remember playing outside as a little kid, maybe 6 or 7 years old, and when I would come in the house and try to breathe, my lungs hurt me.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it was hard to breathe, but I was conscious that it was a yucky day.
Yeah.
And so they tell you to wear a mask. I don't know if that helps. I mean, I guess it does. Either way, I'm just sitting in my room with my air conditioner, and I'm a happy little soul. And, puppies were upset they couldn't go out because with their little noses, okay? they could get more ill than the average bear.
True. Yeah.
So I'm dealing with that. And so they're a little bit cabin fever. If you heard Dewey a few minutes ago, he's starving and he's going through cabin fever.
Oh, poor baby.
No, yeah, it's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, not to put in a plug, but they do like Texas de Brazil. And so I ordered that on the idea that they would then be in food coma.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet. Well, everybody's in food coma except for Dewey, who of course didn't get enough. They all got equal, but he didn't get enough. And Pugsley, who's wandering the house, wondering where the next meal might come from.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten so bad now. They hear the DoorDash guy, and it never bothered them before. And now, because they know what might be their steak, you should see the clawing on the window to get to their steak, no matter what.
Oh, that's cute.
It is. I think that as witches, though, with this weather, I'm horrified. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also, Marla, not shocked. And I looked at, somebody sent me a link to the New York Times. And there's an article today that now Earth is wobbly, and we're a little off our orbit. We're so wobbly. And the scientists, and let's be honest, okay, now think, because they don't know, okay, but they think that this is caused not only by the climate change, but also by the fact we're using up our water too quickly. And so the Earth is in a different type of spin because we have less water. Now, I always thought, remember when you were a kid, I always thought the rain came down and there was a cycle. Remember you saw that nice little, I remember that little Venn diagrammy thing when you were in school that told you the water comes and goes. Well, I guess that's not really true. And I guess you know that from looking at what's going on with Lake Mead, among other places. And so it's interesting.
But I think we're okay because with all the rain that we had, all the empty lakes and everything filled up to capacity. So I don't think it's a problem over here because we're out of the drought for sure.
Wonderful. Because we definitely needed to be out of that drought. Okay? That's me. And they say Las Vegas, aren't they still in a drought?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, how much they got, but I thought they said that Lake Mead had filled up too, and Lake Tahoe up a little norther than that. So I'm not sure. I haven't been following it. All they said is, okay, you can not, you don't have to worry about turning on your faucet and getting a fine, and, everybody's lawns are green and happy, so I just figured if there was any bad news, I didn't want to hear it, so I wasn't paying attention.
Right. Yeah, it sounds good to me.
Yeah, that works that way.
Bodies, though. They were having so much fun finding bodies in Lake Mead. And all.
Well, yeah. that happens, people disappear.
Yeah.
But what can I say? I'm just going to mention in the chat room, guys, if you have any questions or any comments, just feel free to ask. And yes, Cece said the lakes are full. Yes. Okay, good. Thank you.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent news. Thank you, Cece. And they look nice and they're back to almost normal.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting like a week of rain coming up, but we really haven't had that problem here. So, you guys need that. But then I'm hearing the Midwest is a mess. They're having 100-mile wind storms. And
right.
Goodness.
Right now they're having the smoke, too. A friend of mine that lives in Missouri, they're being told to stay in the house if they have to, unless they have to really go out because the air quality there is so bad.
Yep.
So, and she's asking me, she goes, well, have it gotten to you yet? And I said, well, no, because it's coming, it probably won't get all the way over here.
No.
But I said, now you know what we're going through. And I said, it's no fun. It isn't. But anyway, chat room guys, if you want to talk about anything, we're open. If you have questions, we're open. I don't think I have anything to hide. Do you, Lily?
Oh, tons of things. Skeletons all over that closet. But what the heck? We'll open it up and see if they rattle.
Okay, because, then we'll meet in the middle. Because I think I got rid of all my skeletons for a while.
Still in the closet here.
Yeah. But, okay, so I'm going to just, start out by asking you a first question. Because I get it all the time. I mean, there's a certain thing all the time. So, what's the most common question that people keep asking you?
The most common question that I get, and it's because, a lot of people know what are my, interests.
Mm-hmm.
And can you come check out my house? Okay, because they're convinced it's haunted. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so then, I either do or I don't with that. And the other question is, well, what's going to happen? Who's going to win the election? What's going on? When is Ukraine going to be free? And, it's like we have free will. And that's what I have to explain to people, that a lot of this is not, in stone, Marla. You know that. It's
mm-hmm.
And, even if you're seeing peace, that doesn't mean it's going to not come at a cost or it's going to take a while.
Mm-hmm.
What John always taught me, and I was always shocked at this, is that if you're doing what we would call it a selfish spell, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Depending on how you do it, sometimes the results are immediate, and that's to your, it's not a good thing that
mm-hmm.
because you probably made this curse or whatever you did out of anger.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time you finally calmed down and realized it probably wasn't the best idea,
mm-hmm.
Well, then you've got the situation. Love spells, it cracks me up because I've seen them work 2 to 3 years after you put one in.
Mm-hmm.
And so people don't understand that time is certainly bendable, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that it's in our time. So, will we get a new president? Yes, but we usually do, right? So that's
mm-hmm.
not news.
Right.
And it's very hard to try to do anything psychic when literally social media is blowing up with every single thing in the world. And it doesn't seem to matter. I mean, it's a political funny, I can tell you. Everybody was concerned that Hunter Biden would be found out with his laptop, right? The
mm-hmm.
same conservatives who came at me with, Hunter Biden, a laptop, solve it, okay? The same thing they came to me. Now they're coming to me going, oh my goodness. No, we want to keep Joe. We don't want the vice president. No, let's keep Joe for now. Let's keep Joe. And you go, well, thank God you're not a witch, right? Because 1 minute you're asking for one thing, and the next thing you're asking for another thing. And sometimes, Marla, you get the results. You don't have to be, wearing the pentacle to be a witch.
Right.
And we don't realize how much our will is involved in this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get all pumped up and you like this one or that one, you have to be really careful. That's all I'm going to say. You have to be careful.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a lot of questions and comments in the chat room.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The second one I'm not sure about, but the first one from CC, and you can read that. Do you think that full moons affect people's personalities more in the summer or the winter, or is it seasonal lunacy?
I would say, this is my opinion, this is a fact, but I would say the winter, because you've got the cabin fever as well as that urge to merge and purge and in the craziness of a full moon. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely say it's probably going to be wintertime, because when they go out, they're going to make a mess. Okay. And the summer, let's face it, even if they're acting a little crazy, there's a lot of places you can go and act crazy in the summertime and nobody will notice.
Exactly. Yeah.
But wintertime, especially if they go out driving or, all you have to do is talk to nurses who are in an ER, and they'll tell you stories about the full moon that you cannot even believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It does have an effect, but I agree with you about the winter because maybe not even the same reasons. It just popped into my head, when I was reading it. I go, oh, it has to be winter, and I didn't really have anything to back that up with. But, yeah, I just think so. Especially winter, but even autumn, the harvest moon and stuff. Seems like some full moons are stronger than others.
Yes.
And so, something like the harvest moon and, a couple of the others. Yeah, but I guess it is seasonal to a certain degree.
Now, Sherry says love spells get you animal companions. Yeah, if you don't, I think I've told that story on here many times. If you don't write your love spell exactly right, you might just get a new friend, because if you want someone who's always there, glad to, happy when you come home, never in a bad mood, you're going to get a puppy. I'm sorry. It's not logical to even think that you're going to get a guy.
Well, and also, let's face it, sometimes you get a jackass whether you need one or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's true. And love spells to me, I'm very wary.
Yeah.
You can get anybody, if you use your witchery well, you can get anybody you want. It's keeping them.
Mm-hmm.
It shows whether there's a magical component or not, because there's got to be something that's real there. Okay, yeah, you're going to have one nights that are beautiful and you just have glitter all, it's wonderful, but they sort of pale once the moonlight is gone, and they look harsh in the sunlight. But yeah, I would say a love spell I'm not fond of. I don't like to do them for people. I often just tell them to do it for themselves. And I feel that's better because I don't know what they're dealing with. Some people insist on using pictures of stars and stuff. I want someone like Tom Cruise.
Yeah, see?
I'm not a fan of that either, because you may just end up really, enamored with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, and it's just, you never know what you're going to get, because most people that are doing love spells are about, well, I'm not saying this is my opinion, about people they don't know very well. It's that cute guy across the desk,
exactly.
And stuff. So you don't know. This guy could be a serial killer. He could be all kinds of things, but you're looking at him taking face value and thinking, oh my God, this guy is, I have to have him forever, and and a lot of people get very sorry when they do that.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And, let's face it, we all make mistakes even with our soundest minds.
Yeah.
And, it works for a while and then it just doesn't work. You've grown, or he's grown, and you've grown apart. But certainly to assume, and I think women are very much socialized to believe in the happy ever after.
Mm-hmm.
Your prince will come. And I don't think that's realistic. You better go find your prince and make sure you get to know him before, you find out that he wears socks in bed or something really bizarre.
And then it's also not fair, because when you're doing a spell, and if you're really good at doing a spell and you're doing it with all your might, you're taking away the free will from whoever you're wanting to get. And that's kind of like verboten.
Yep.
So, yeah, I don't like love spells. I just don't. I never did, but, some people do. But better to make those spells that make yourself look more attractive and enticing, and do it on yourself, and then they'll come to you.
Wow, Cece's going deep.
I know, huh? Go ahead, read it out. Read it.
She says you two talked about the weather and the fires, but do you both get more calls from people with the severe weather or political situations? And how do the personal problems relate or filter through distress? How do people translate the stress? Wow, that's a great question.
It is, I mean, people get very hopeful, and some people that don't even believe in people that want to talk to mediums or witches or whatever, psychics. I mean, they'll be desperate when things happen, like, political situations, and severe weather or all kinds of stuff. I probably think that's their out, because it's the only possibility in their minds probably that they will have some kind of an answer. What do you think?
Well, I think with severe weather, that's an easy one. That immediately goes back to, are they alone? Are they worried about dying alone?
Yeah.
And so there's a need for love. The more, like with the COVID, I got more calls about love. And I mean, I was cracking up, because you're not going to start a new love relationship when you can't leave your house.
Right.
Okay. And don't make the mistake of meeting them online. Yeah, it can work.
Mm-hmm.
But, with COVID, people went in some strange directions, and they got their hand slapped, because the people who they were talking to, I wasn't the same when I was trapped between, four walls.
Mm-hmm.
And you promise things and say things that you don't really mean. So, yeah, the severe weather thing, or a crisis, is something that people do get very, I would say, maudlin about, and that they don't want to be alone. Mm-hmm. Now, political situations, and I can't wait to hear Marla's take on this, okay?
Okay.
I never saw the pain, and I mean the actual pain, okay? I never had as many clients who were in pain, who literally had worked for Hillary. They, worked hard, or they told all their friends, and they were sure she was going to win, right?
Mm-hmm.
They ended up being very depressed. And I mean, there was more than one that I suggested therapy for, and it was just because the reality that they had assumed, okay, turned out not to be the reality. And these people were in a lot of pain. Mm-hmm. A lot of women who thought they would get to see a woman in the White House. Mm-hmm. Women, of course, were very, stressed by that. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, political problems, there's always going to be political problems that are somebody's hot button. Okay. Now,
well, that's true, yeah.
We saw a different situation when Trump didn't win. Instead of just internalizing it, if you will, we saw behavior that, in my opinion, was pretty abominable, okay? And incidents that didn't need to happen. And so they seem to externalize it. And I wonder if it's the male versus female energy. But these two groups, very interesting. And, I remember people literally very worried about what was going to happen after Dick Nixon resigned. But they weren't like this. I would put the people that I talked to were as upset as the people at the end of Kennedy's life when he was shot, okay? Yeah. They just didn't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, but see, here's the whole thing about, there are people that just live politics. I mean, honest to God, whoever gets in the White House, we can't do anything about it. I mean, when you vote, but people just breathe and live those things. I hate this one. This one is that. No, this is the most of them. And I've never seen in years gone by when somebody won an election that they didn't like, they would just go, 2 or 3 days they were kind of mumbling and grumbling. Right. And then you forget about it. Get on with your lives. Don't sit there and just have politics as the only thing in your life. That scares me, and really some educated people that I know have gone crazy about that.
Having with politics, I can tell you this, okay? If you take it seriously, the only thing, I'm a boomer, just so you know, I'm a boomer. So when I tell you this, you may not get it if you're not a boomer. But I remember the stay-at-home moms. Remember, Marla? And they were so into their story, right? And they were watching Days of Our Lives and Another World and General Hospital, and they were so attached to their story. And then, 10 years later, 20 years later, then we had the nighttime, the Dallases, and Knots Landing, and that was their story, right? Mm-hmm. They sort of lived through you know what I mean? That kept them going, if you will. And people who get into this stuff, okay, and take it way too seriously, I've seen the craziness, okay, and I've seen the deep depression. But I can also say you have to, again, don't believe your own hype. And don't believe anybody else's hype. They're just going to, somebody's got to win, right? And you can argue that it's fixed, it's not fixed, whatever. The bottom line is somebody wins, somebody loses in every single election. I've never seen an election where everybody won and got a gold star. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So I really think that if you're involved in it, the best thing you can do is also fill your mind with things other than that.
It has to. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I've got a lot of interest, but a lot of people don't, okay? And they seek out like-minded individuals, and I'd rather sit with a whole bunch of individuals that don't agree with me.
Yeah, it's more interesting, isn't it?
More interesting. I don't want to be hearing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. I do like all of the strange, and I don't understand this, Marla, but I wasn't, I was thrown out by the Scientologists when they tried to get me in, so I understand. But you know how the whole QAnon and things like that, these people have issues of wanting to belong and wanting friends so badly, okay?
Yeah. That
they find them on the internet and they're looking for cookies and baking or whatever. I was just losing it with that.
Yeah. It just gets overwhelming, and when we come back, we got to take a quick break. But you mentioned the Scientologists, and I'm going to get on a soapbox, just a little one, when we come back. So hang in, everybody, and get some more questions going or comments, and we'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away. If you end up with webbed feet, remember, you've been warned.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What Are You Afraid Of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X. Missed an episode of Stirring the Cauldron? Then be sure to check out marlabrooks.com and check out the archive. And while you're there, check out Marla's weekly Witches Oracle card reading. Explore the site to find many great resources, such as information on tarot, oracle readings, metaphysical consultations, and links to all of Marla's books. That's marlabrooks.com. Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
And I'm here with Lillee Allee, in case you're wondering that I had a guest today, but we're not a guest, we're sharing time today. So, all right, Lillee, you're a baseball fan, and you watch the baseball games as much as possible, right?
Now and then. I'm not a huge fan, but I enjoy it.
Okay.
Watch it for the guys. Let's be honest.
What? Say that?
For the guys, right?
What's for the guys? Watching for the guys?
Yeah.
No, well, not me. I've never mind. Anyway, I was watching the other day, and the game is like 2.5, 3 hours long, and about 5 or 6 times they put on a commercial for Scientology. Now, I don't know how you feel about Scientology. You know, lots of people are kind of negative about it. And then you didn't hear so much about it for a really long time. But now they're back. And they are doing these commercials that are showing them going out on helpful things. And the key word is here, the guy gets on and he says, well, you've probably heard a lot about Scientology in the past, but you've never heard it from us. Now, that's very clever. But I just kind of, I don't know why it just kind of gives me the willies or something when I see those commercials, because I just can't believe that they're actually real. And I guess we got brainwashed that they were really bad, and I can't say one way or the other because I really don't know. But, you know, I thought, what a weird kind of commercial to put on during a baseball game, you know? I mean, they've got the hamburger commercials, all the different hamburger places. They've got the booze commercials and stuff, you know, which is about right. But I just thought it was just kind of out of place for some reason. And then I'm thinking, well, they're probably got a bunch of money and, you know, the advertisers can't say no. What do you think about that?
Well, I know that they fought tooth and nail when, and they fought legally about being called a cult.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a lot different than other people. I am one of those people who really, truly believe that my phone didn't need to ring right now. But I'm one of the, you know, it works for very well, okay? And I've known people who have benefited from it, and I know people who didn't benefit from it, okay? Now, when I was dealing with this, you know, they had it was a beautiful building in Boston in the 80s, and they would come and sort of scoop up some students and talk to us and, you know, try to find out. I mean, it's a path to self-improvement, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But like any path to self-improvement, even Wicca, okay, with the wrong priest or priestess, you're going to be put in a journey that may not be your own, okay? It may be a journey that someone else believes you should have.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think that we see this in all religions, okay? And they did get a bad rap, and they do things a little bit differently, shall I say, than an average faith group.
Mm-hmm.
But no different than the Mormons and their, you know, magic underwear. Some people are offended by that. Okay.
I never heard about that. But finish what you're saying and then tell me what magic underwear is.
Well, the thing is, and I once was talking to someone who was mocking out someone who was Mormon, and they were talking about this magic underwear that I guess you wear underneath your clothes. And from what I understand, it reminds you of, you know, your security in your Lord, blah, 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 right? It's a protection, if you will. But there's been Catholics who do that in the same way with belt. You know, I don't want to say belts. It's not like they put on a belt, but with the cords and other items. I just don't think that any of us can judge something else. It may be bad for one person, okay? It may be devastating, but we could say that about every religion because it's, you know, it needs to match up. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Need to match up. And that's a real problem. Okay? And so Do I think they have a right to be? Well, Tom Cruise
Sure.
would tell you it benefited him. John Travolta would tell you it benefited him. And then on the other side are the naysayers going, well, they have, people, they get the big stars to go along with them. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, I think if it helps them, I think Lisa Marie Presley was even involved at one point.
Yeah, she was, yeah.
Okay, and I think that if you find a community that rings your bell, I've been in covens where I left because it just wasn't a good match, right?
Right.
And I felt that I was being led in a direction I didn't want to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fine with Wicca. Nobody judges you per se. But, if you go to the Catholic Church and you say, well, I don't know about this. I sort of like, I like having a number of gods. They're not going to look well upon you, and they'll probably tell you to find somewhere else to go if you can't relate to what their vibe is.
Yeah.
And I think that religions are like vibrations. And if you vibrate with that same faith, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, I have found beauty in every single religion, including the Muslim faith. And people will look at me and say, well, are you crazy? And I tell them the same answer I'll give anyone, Marla, which is, my prayer is, Jesus, protect me from your followers, okay? Because I have no problem with Jesus. I have no problem with beliefs in Jesus. I can have wonderful conversations with people with Jesus. But please don't tell me I'm going to roast in hell, and my mother didn't go to heaven because I'm so bad. You get tired of that, okay? The judgment, you get tired of it. Yeah. And I think we see that in a lot of religions. I know that if you're not sticking to the program, okay, I think you do have problems. But my father gave me a book when I was like 12, 13 about Scientology in the 70s when it was just a big new thing. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the ideas. I mean, some of it's way out there, but so is some of the Mormon stuff, okay? And honestly, if you were totally foreign and as an adult you came up against Christians, you would think they were nutsy too. Mm-hmm. So he died. Well, he really didn't die. Well, what happened? Well, then he rose again. What do you mean rose again? When did he rise the first time, right? Yeah. And so you can get as judgmental with people as you want to, but I think as witches, we tend to take the view of, if it works for you, that's wonderful, okay? And you should, I insist that you don't question using me as a sounding board because it's working for you. But if not, okay, then that's when you should go exploring. And you can explore your whole life.
Well, I think we all need to keep exploring. When you walk around with blinders on, it's pretty detrimental, I think. You have to keep an open mind. You don't have to agree, but at least listen or,
Exactly. Listen, be open that someone's experience of the divine may not be the same as yours.
Right.
Okay? And I have found people who have had really interesting encounters with the divine, okay? And yet, Marla, you've seen this too, okay? Then they come back to it, and other people say, oh, well, that wasn't the divine talking. Oh, that might have been a demon, blah, blah, blah. This person who had this wonderful experience. I'll give you a great example of this. It was a friend of mine who she believed that, now, I know this sounds a little different, but you have to understand it. She missed her father terribly, and he had a favorite bird. And she was looking out her window of her new apartment, and in this tree that she had taken a liking to, okay, that particular bird came to the window and looked at her. And she was convinced that this was her father communicating with her, that she had made the right decision to live where she was living and do what she was doing. Okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, you and I can say, that's wonderful. Other people are going to go, no, that's ridiculous. And then you get the very harsh Christians who are going to judge her and say, how do you know it wasn't a demon, that bird? Okay. We have to let her be the experiencer. Otherwise, it's our journey. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, what do you think on that one? I mean, I just think we're bad to even look at other religions, because I will see something good in the weirdest religions, okay? But the goodness is it a community where people are learning and growing and feeling safe?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Obviously, what was it, Applegate or whatever that was, where they all put on the same tennis shoes and waited for the
Yeah.
whatever. That's not healthy, right? Taking poison is not healthy. But there's other religions that you may think it's strange that they sit around and commune waiting to talk to an ET. You've heard about that, where people go up.
Mm-hmm.
They have, I will tell you, I have heard from people that they have seen things and it was a religious experience to them. It's not for me or you or anybody to say, well, that wasn't reality. So religion means to relink. And if that for some reason is relinking them to something that's close to their heart, I don't feel we have any say in that.
No, I mean, to each his own. And, we're getting a couple of questions here, so let's get to one of them. Cece says she has another weird question. If we do finally get alien contact disclosure, do you think people will react positively? And how would this change spirituality when we move from earth-based thought to universal?
Wow. That's really deep. And I was just watching today I think it was done by Anonymous. It was something on YouTube regarding the fact that all of a sudden we had all these UFO, news right over when there were other things happening, and then that it was a diversion by the media to not look at the serious problems and instead now be waiting for the ETs. I don't think everyone will move over there in a healthy manner. Okay. I think again, it will unfortunately be Marla and me and a lot of other people who are universal based. Okay. That it's okay you can still have your beliefs and still accept the fact that there may be other life in the universe. Came here. Okay. And, you can easily think of Adam and Eve as a metaphor, okay, as some religions do, whereas others say straight out, some of the Christian heavy duties say, no, this really happened, right? So I think you've got to be ready to wrap your head around something that we've never been socialized to believe in, okay?
Yeah.
I think the boomers are the last generation where we were told we were just plain crazy, okay? And so that is changing a lot. I have a lot of faith in the up-and-coming generations. I think they would be able to think universally because, honestly, our problems, right now we don't even think Earth-based, right?
Right.
That's what bothers me. Okay, I've got friends who certainly can learn from being more diverse, okay, and yet they don't. I am in a neighborhood where we were also in sort of a drought, but that didn't stop some of them from putting the lawn care and the chemicals on the lawn, and I don't do that. Okay, I won't do that, okay? And when I see other people in our country really worried about their water supply, I think it's very snarky for me to go out and water my lawn. I'm sorry. It just doesn't make sense to me. Same thing with running your air conditioning all day. Or like with my house, it had central air. When I had to get it fixed, I said nope and went to one unit because I'm one person, right? I don't need central air. I can only go in one room at a time. But other people have been, they're in the belief that somehow we're entitled to these things. Like if you can afford it, you can have central air. Well, the $600 bills weren't really great for me at the other house when I had central air. So it's a very hard question, isn't it? But when we start thinking first, about our own people, okay, and by that I mean we have people of all creeds and colors in our country, and we should love them all because they're ours, okay? Then if you can get to the point where you can at least appreciate others, okay, then I think we're getting somewhere. And if we can get over that Cold War programming that's in my head, Marla, which is, Russians bad, okay, Germans bad, okay, you get past that and you can start realizing they have the same problems we do, from toilets that don't flush when you want them to serious worries about whether there's going to be nuclear war. And when you begin to look at people as people versus inhabitants of that area, I don't think you'll be as frightened about the world. And certainly, if you can handle everyone on this earth who's so different and wonderful, okay, and diverse, I don't think seeing a guy with big eyes should affect you. I'm more interested in how are we going to communicate. Yeah. But from all that we hear, okay, they need to do everything in a telepathic mode. They've even taken care of that for us. So do I worry about that? No. If we continue to be stupid and keep warring, okay, and I mean that as a we, okay, people, I don't know how happy they'll be when they come. But, there's enough research that, they don't want us warring and blowing up the earth. It makes sense to me, but,
Yeah, it does. And I think, back when the Roswell incident happened, people were, having flying saucer things, and really bad things. And they had with that Planet 9 from Outer Space movie and all that stuff. But now, we've heard so much about it over the years, and it's kind of not even a shocker for anybody anymore. You see something in the sky and people are like, oh, wow, that could be, an ET or something. I think the majority of the people are open-minded enough to just say, okay, now what? But not in a bad way.
Next. That's the most exciting thing to me is, so they came to visit, now what's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, let me get another question in. Is it right to favor one ritual tool over your other tools? I don't think mine get in, me. And maybe it's like kids. You don't always have a favorite tool, I mean, you don't favor one over the other because when you're using different tools, you're using them for a different reason. You're not going to use an athame when you need to use something else or, so I don't think that they care, I mean, if they have personalities, I don't think they're going to beat each other up. But I don't think there's a favor. It's just, each one has its own job. What do you think?
I would agree with you.
I
think it's really, it's like working with the elements. I have the hardest time dealing with water, though I'm a Scorpio, but the problem with that is I don't like to deal with emotional people. Okay, I like to deal with, especially, it's one thing if you're with your friends and you're just having a good vent fest, but it's another thing if you're working on a project and everybody brings their own issues in there with them. I like it to be like a circle where you leave that stuff outside and work on what is in front of you. Okay? So water has always been hard for me to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I had to, probably, I like my wand, but if I had somebody breaking in the house, I wouldn't use the wand, I'd use the sword. So I think your point, Marla, is exactly correct, which is, yeah, it's there. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're all there. And the original witches, they lived by that. Remember, they used their knives in the kitchen as well. And so they didn't go out to a pretty little store and pick out this one or that one. They used what worked.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's a very cool thing to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And some people don't use tools at all. I mean, you know the old saying, the best tool is ourselves.
Yeah, John would say his favorite tool was the finger.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Because he got to the point where he had stopped using ritual tools and he did everything with his finger.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, he said you don't start that way, but after a while, it's certainly better than whipping out a wand. They'll think you're Harry Potter. Or whipping out a sword, you might hurt somebody. And he was a very big advocate to that. And that was one crossover that he thought really when you're at an achievement level, you're comfortable with doing what you need to do in that moment. And that's why he said fingers are nice. But
yeah. I think, you know, like anything, certain things go commercial. You know, back in the day, you didn't have an occult store to get stuff, like you said. You know, if you had a knife, you have a knife. If you have a wand, you know, a twig from the tree fell out. You don't have all the fancy things. And they were just as effective as what we get in the store. But, you know, somebody said, okay, let's start doing this and we can make money with this. You know, I mean, in every
what's wrong with that?
No, it isn't. So some things go commercial and some things not, and yeah. So that's that. Another question, and we've got like 4 minutes, so I think we can get this one done, and then we'll go to another break. Could you two witches please give us some tips on what to look for when seeking a psychic or mediumship reading, and what would be the best way to ask your questions? A lot of people seem to struggle with that. I'll let you go with that one for now.
For me, you know, I would seek a psychic who, A, doesn't know me, isn't a friend of a friend. There's somebody who you go in, they don't know who you are, they don't know what you are, and you can then be that tabula rasa, okay, the blank slate that she can then deal with, okay? Now, obviously, there's people who do cold readings and based on your clothes and everything else, they can say, well, I think you're this, I think you're that. But those are nasty little crutches that you shouldn't be using anyway.
Yes. And
a good psychic will deal with you and not want to know anything about you.
Mm-hmm.
I always never took a full name when I would take calls and things like that because I don't want to be looking. I don't even want them to think I'm looking them up on Facebook. That's not my business. And let's be honest, even if you found Facebook, that's not the truth anyway about this person. You know, so the bottom line is to find someone that doesn't know you, doesn't know anything about you, and you can get a very clear reading from. I would say for mediumship, really talk to people because some people don't want a particular type of medium, and depending on what you need to have done, you may or may not want to go to one medium over another or something like that. I don't like gallery readings. They're lots of fun, okay? But I would never, no matter what I saw for you, I'm not going to tell your personal business in front of a crowd.
Yes.
Okay, so keep that in mind that, we can do gallery readings, and they're popular, but you're going to get very generalized statements, and it's not that she doesn't want to give it to you or he doesn't want to give it to you. It's that, you know, honest to God, you know, you don't want to turn to someone and say, I'm really sorry that you had a sexual assault. and so everybody can stare at them. I mean, you wouldn't do that. So you say, well, it sounds like you've had a few hard, you've been served a few hard things in your life, and I see you getting past them and getting stronger. Okay? And so you don't get the real answer. I would always go to a medium, and I would not bring anyone else with me, because if you're trying to get a reading for you, the other person will also disrupt the energy. That's why it's so darn hard at a psychic fair to tune into that person, because there's all that energy all over the room. And that's why we tend to really like the cards, because that focuses us back down onto you. Depending on what kind of reading you want, make sure you find someone who you'll be comfortable with, and that who you can say, I had many people who would say to me, I don't want to know about deaths. I don't want to know about anything sad. I just want a general reading. And so you know what they want. To not tell the psychic and then get too much information or too little information is what a lot of people then have, that buyer's remorse. And that's rough.
Yeah. And, you have to trust your gut, because there are, unfortunately, a lot of charlatans out there that are just, playing games and doing cold readings and having you come in, let's do it next week because things might be changing in a week's time or whatever. Those are the psychic readings. For the mediumship readings, it's kind of interesting that the only ones that I've really trust, when I've talked to people and stuff, well, they will say something that about whoever's on the other side or whatever, that she couldn't have found out about it. Just something that really hit home. And then you kind of know this person's on the ball. But again, they just want to tell you stuff that you don't want to hear, and we do say sometimes, well, if what I have to say isn't resonating with you right now, think about it. Maybe it'll come to you in a little bit later. That's kind of a double-edged sword, because, sometimes you do forget something and then you realize, oh my God, that's what they were talking about. But other times, you think so hard about it, you'll make it happen, but it isn't, it's not something that they did. I don't know. I'm really skeptical about so many of them that are out there that it's hard to know. But trust your gut. Is this person somebody that you can trust? I mean, because everybody knows how to read other people, but sometimes you don't use it. You go by what somebody else says. And so, if you're with somebody and you're just not, they could say that they're the best psychic, the best medium in the whole world, but you're sitting there and looking at that person and saying, wow, I don't think so. Get up and leave. Just because everybody thinks that's the most wonderful person, it may not be the wonderful person for you.
I think that's great advice.
All right. Well, we're going to, on that happy note, and I didn't get smacked down about it, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, it'll be kind of the new Aeon Now kind of thing, but we're still going to be doing the same stuff. So hang on. We'll be back.
listening at home, at work, or anywhere, thanks for making Para X part of your day. Your source for everything paranormal, Para X.
Well, we're back. Lillee, you here?
I'm here, and guess what? Now it's new Aeon Now time. What we're doing is Marla has taken the reins. Of course, now she hands them to me, so I guess I'm riding the horse with her, okay? And what we're doing is we're asking you, what did you want to know about witches? What do you want to know about us? What advice can we give you? We're here, and we're going to be here another hour, so any question that you have, don't hesitate to put it in the chat room. If you're listening on something other than the chat room, please jump in and have some fun. Because so far it's been fun. And I got to tell you, Marla, none of these questions are what I expected. These are really good ones.
We have good people in the chat room. I always say that.
Yes, we have good people.
Smart people. Thought-provoking people. Yes. We're blessed.
We are. I wasn't so blessed because during the break, I was finding my trash bag that disappeared from the trash, the basket, and I found it down the hall, and everything was removed from it.
Dewey.
Nope, not Dewey. It was Anakin this time. So I had to have a conversation that we're not going to do that because Mommy can only bend so much. She's getting old. And, of course, they say, oh, well, Mommy.
They don't care. They're going to do what they want to do.
Right. That was fun, Mommy. Give us another bag to play with. So that's the exciting news on this end. So give us some great questions because we're ready to yap. I mean, I think that we've gotten into some really good areas, Marla, that most people don't think about from a witchcraft perspective, that being politics. Which, I know of some politicians who have used psychics and mediums. And we only have to look as far as Reagan, who was honest about it. Who else does it? We don't know. But now we've got a question from Kathy who's saying, I hear people talk about cord cutting. But I wonder if you do a cord cutting to cut someone out of your life, are you infringing on their free will? All right, let's go with Kathy's. This is a good one.
I think, if you do anything in regards to somebody else without them knowing it or whatever, I do think it is kind of infringing on their free will. And if you're really good at it, it will definitely do that. If you have that emotion that you really need to do this, it'll probably work and you might be sorry later.
Well, I totally disagree for once, Marla.
Hey, good.
Okay. First, I would ask Kathy, let's talk about two different kinds of cord cutting. One is a Wiccan divorce, right? You take the actual rope or, velvet rope or whatever you use to be hand-fasted. Right. And you, meaning you or me or anybody, let's call it man and woman. Okay. Man left woman, okay? And woman wants a cord cutting. Why does she want a cord cutting? She's not infringing with anything. He's already left her. He's out of town with some cutie, all right?
Yeah.
But she needs to cut this out of her life, to stop looking at it the way that it was, because it's not like that now. And by cutting them out, not only are you taking that guilt off of you, and, there's a lot of rituals you can do with this, but by cutting the cord, and I even say burning it, okay? And there's nothing left of that other than your memories. And you keep the happy ones and you burn out the other ones. Okay. Now, that is very healthy. Now, if you do that when you're still married to a guy and you want to get rid of him, so you do a cord cutting, that's very inappropriate. But if you're doing it because face it, you don't care what he thinks. He's out with somebody else now. But you want this pain to stop in you and being able to look forward to a new life.
Yeah.
Okay? The other kind of cord cutting is, we do create cords, okay, with people as we get to know them, and they get thicker, and sometimes the relationship, for whatever reason, whether it's your doctor, whether it's your lawyer, whether it's your next door neighbor, whether it's your best friend, okay, there's a time when it's no longer going to work for you. Underline what I'm saying here, work for you. Okay? You've done everything possible, to hint around to it, and you really are afraid to say anything straight out. Yes, you can do a cord cutting. However, remember, you're cutting that person out of your life. Do not call them again. Do not bother them ever again, because then you're messing with them. If anything, you're gaslighting them, right? But you wanted them out of your life. Keep them out of your life, okay? Like with an ex. Get them out of your life, okay? Don't go looking back, because that's not what this is about. This is about helping you and clearing your connections so then you can go out and feel comfortable about making new connections. But again, you can't be talking to your best friend on the phone every other night and then want to do a cord cutting to cut them out of your life. So it has nothing to do with their free will as much as your magic has to be around your cord cutting. Right. And there's a lot of things that you need to cut from, whether it's a relative who's constantly borrowing money from you, whether it's a relative who every time you hear them, there's going to be some horrible thing mentioned that's going to ruin your day. Those are things that are your problem, right? You're the one reacting to it, so you can cut that out. Yeah. But again, don't play with magic. Okay, it will bite you. If you aren't sure about this, don't do it.
Yeah, I mean, people get misinformation all over the place, and I agree with what you said. It's interesting that people will take lessons from people that are good. We all have teachers in certain areas. But some people will go on the internet or Wikipedia or something like that and learn how to do magic. And they don't know any better. This is the thing. It's very difficult to get the right education from the right people. And so here's my question then, how does somebody pick a mentor?
Oh, that's a good question. I think you have many mentors throughout your magical life. And, you could stay with one a long time. I did. Okay. Yeah. And that was very healthy for me. Then circumstances were such that I had to make a life decision, and that decision was to, work with John, and some people didn't like that because they didn't believe in what he believed in. And so I went into a different era of my magic. And now I'm very personal with my magic. But you find whoever you can find who's ever willing to talk to you. You may find someone who is the best mentor in the world and you only get one night of talking to them. That's worth it, okay? Or you have someone nearby who's willing to take the time and go over things with you or give you classes. That's worth it. And I think it's so important to have mentors.
Yes.
And if you don't, you're doing something wrong, because none of us know everything. I don't care who you are. I don't care how long you've been doing this. You don't know everything. And to assume that you do is a frightening thing, because, again, you're believing in your own hype, and it will bite you. And I've seen it bite so many times.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. But, when we start meeting people, and it doesn't have to be face-to-face. I mean, way back when Para X was just starting, I didn't know half the people, who they were, what they were, if they were whatever. And, you get to learn. And with all my guests and all the people that I've met here, I mean, not all of them were mentors per se, but I am so blessed and learned so much from so many people. And that, I get hungry for more information. Every time something comes up that I don't know about, I get really happy that, my guests will talk about that or whatever. That's not to say, we don't always get guests that agree with us, but, you don't have to agree with them, but you just have to listen. That's the most important thing. Just listen. There's another question here. You ready?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a good idea to specialize in various forms of magic, herbalism, candle work, or should someone be well-rounded in all aspects before settling down on a pathway?
That's an excellent question.
Yeah.
And I may not agree with you with this, Marla. I'll start, and then you can yell at me this time.
No, it's fine. I like it when we don't agree, because then we're just talking. We're learning. Go ahead.
I feel that in your first year, if you have not been exposed to magic, okay, that you do try different forms. And my first year, when I was teaching, I would always have them learn the basic herbalism, okay, basic candle work,
right,
basic stone work, okay, and then learn their magic and see where they want to be, because doing all that will really excite certain parts of your brain. And by reading about that, like the Kabbalion that I make everybody read, you'll begin to realize what your beliefs are about magic. And yeah, some people go in with fully formed ideas. Others don't. And so you've got to take that year, okay, to figure out what it is you want out of the magic. Okay? And most people say knowledge, right? Okay, but what do you want to be knowledgeable in first?
Yeah.
Okay? And that will help you set on a path. And then, and the beauty of that is, let's say you decide you want to learn Stregoria, okay? But you get halfway into your first month or two of studying it with someone, and you realize that's not at all what you want. Then you can go back and maybe look at something else. I mean, there's so much that, to me, that you learn your first year, okay? Second year, you learn ritual, okay? Third year, not only should you be putting it all together, but I like to see third and fourth year students involved in the community, okay? And that does not mean that you have to have a coven and you have to go to this event. What it means is being aware of a community, checking out for people, being able to say, I have a friend up the street who is interested in Wicca. This one, I know this person, they're a dark druid, but they're interesting and I like talking to them. That's what I'm saying, reaching out to find out, because there's nothing better than, let's say you always wondered if you should go the Italian witchcraft route, right? You didn't. And then you meet a Stregola and they start talking to you about everything and you go, wow, am I glad I didn't settle on that, because that's just not me. And you go into something else and go, wow, this is so me. And it's a nice path. There's always two paths to go on. And I always say, and there's a third path. And you've got to decide which one of those is right for you. And you don't make a commitment to any belief system until you're sure it's right for you.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, there's so many people that have gone and changed. All right, Dave the Bard, all right, for example. So here's this guy who is a druid. He's a very good druid. He's very intense. He knows his stuff. He's the real deal. He's not pious or anything, but he is really he would be a very good teacher. But he started out in his early 20s as a ceremonial magician. And that is like one end of the field to the other, it's just boom. But when he found out, about Druidism and stuff, that he changed, and that's where he found his thing. And I know other people are doing the same kind of thing, and you have to look around. It's like somebody says, a lot of people tell me or ask me, what path are you on? What's your path?
Yeah.
And, and then if you say something like, take a little from everybody, like an eclectic kind of path, take a little piece of this, a little piece of that. I think we all do that, but I don't like labels, and so I'm not going to say, well, no, I'm a gray witch, I'm not a Wiccan, I'm not, because I don't think there's a name for some of us, But here's the thing, and I don't know if people know this, but I met you and John because you had a book or something. It must have been a book, but this was like 100 years ago.
Yep.
And it was the fact that you, the White Witch, here's the label, were married to a Satanist. And so he was taking the left path and you were taking the right path. So talk about that a little bit, because, people think that you have to be with somebody or be friendly with somebody that's exactly like you, and that's not true.
Well, first of all, I met John the first time when I was 24 years old, and I just thought he was something different because he was so real, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in the 80s, people just didn't talk about that. In Boston and Salem, we were talking about witchcraft, but it was still very hush-hush, and, and here's this guy who's telling me his story of being in the Amun-Ra grotto and having been in Church of Satan. Then he started his own church and going on and on and on about it. And I just was taken with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we lost touch, and then we got back in touch, and then we'd lose touch again. And it was just fascinating to me that someone was that committed to a path, okay? Now, I knew Lori Cabot, and she was very committed to her path and to teaching. Mm-hmm. And I just, I literally just thought she was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But John, I didn't agree with everything he said, but I certainly, I could handle it, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'll never forget my father was driving me to work one day. My car wasn't working. And he said, "So you're dating John?" And I go, "Yep." He goes, "All right, just tell me, how dark is he?" And I go, "Dark, dark?" He goes, "Dark, dark, dark?" And I said, "Yeah, dark, dark, dark."
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, "Are you scared of him?" I said, "Absolutely not." He said, "All right, I'll leave my mind open to it."
Yeah.
And that I felt really good about, because it made me realize that, people are going to judge him. I mean, I never saw him do anything hideous, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I knew he did things that he then regretted later on in his life. And that's the problem with black magic. You can't say that it's always used with evil intent. You can say it's always used for selfish intent.
Mm.
Okay? And I've met a lot of Satanists who were not COS. They were more of believing in Satan as an entity, who got so into their magic, and a lot of them had ceremonial backgrounds, okay, that you could literally see them start to lose it. And the reason being, and I know this is going to sound weird, but as Wiccans, we take from the earth, okay? I take my magic from the earth, and then I ground myself, and it's a constant give and take, if you will, okay?
Yeah.
They pull it down into their head, okay? And they demand it, all right? And it was that I think slowly affects them, because it is a harder way to do things. If you want to try it, you feel very icky, because your body's not naturally like that, okay? John was very lucky, because right when he was in the 90s, he decided that he could benefit from learning Wicca, and he did.
Oh, wow.
And he spent a lot of time with a guy who was into Wicca and was known, and it was very powerful for him. And so he mixed that with his Temple of Set ceremonial stuff, and he was able to really build and build and build on it.
Mm-hmm.
But he would never have said that he had evil intent. He would say that black magic had selfish intent.
Yeah.
And that's a big difference.
Yes,
now,
it is.
are we all necessarily selfish? Well, yeah, we are. We're humans.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start treading on other people's stuff,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I can tell you one story that will pretty much. John was not the only Satanist I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew another Satanist who was a woman, and she was also in radio with me in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And she was in love with this guy, okay? I don't know how they had met, but they met, and she didn't want to talk about her magic a lot, but when she'd been drinking a little bit, she got a little mouthy about it. And this guy's wife had gotten pregnant, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so she did her little magic, okay? And the woman miscarried.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what does she do? Okay, she then goes full bore after this guy because now he's not tethered to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? He felt so bad about the wife, he totally broke it off with her.
Mm-hmm.
And see, to me, that's karma.
Yeah.
Okay, she used something so selfish and so again, I am against the use of innocence in anything, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Children are not to be messed with, okay? And yet she had no problem and thought nothing about this. And even when I told John about it, John was sort of like taken aback going, wow, that's going to bang back before I even told him the end result.
Yeah.
And so she ended up very in and out of psychiatric care after that.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Why did you need to do that? Okay? There's nobody in this world that we need so badly. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's when we start talking about obsession, and no witches should be obsessed with anything.
No.
Okay?
No.
And you see that in the craft. The obsession with the magic, the obsession with the power is only going to lead you down the wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing this for all the wrong reasons, whether you're on a light path or a dark path or, right path or left-hand path, whatever, what are you doing it for? If you're doing it for power and manipulation purposes, you're going to run into some problems. Some are not terrible problems, but if you're going to be doing things such as killing, babies in the womb or killing, spouses or all that stuff, just don't. Okay? Nothing is worth that kind of blowback.
Right.
And so that's the only way I can say that is, and was she evil? I wouldn't use that word with her. She was so self-absorbed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it was anything to get this guy. Anything. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm sort of glad she was at least using magic because she was so obsessed it could have become like what was that show with the fair where they put the bunny in the pot? Remember that? Fatal Attraction.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's what she was like. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a mental problem. And one of the things of training with magic is you don't become obsessed. If anything, it's more like a Buddhist approach where you become less obsessed with what is and, more accepting of the flow of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
answer that question, because John, as he got older, was he still using things that were considered, quote, black magic? Yeah, absolutely. But I never would have called him evil, and he never did anything around me that was particularly nasty. I know he was involved in one curse because of this father who was, for lack of a better word, assaulting his child.
Mm-hmm.
That turned out well because he got caught and he was put in jail, and the child was given to a foster family.
Okay.
And hopefully she wasn't in that situation anymore. It was really bad. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that manipulation? Maybe. I can't call that evil.
No.
So it wasn't white magic. Okay.
Right.
It was manipulative. Would I do it? I don't know. I just don't know. I think we all have our limits as to what we're willing to do.
Mm-hmm.
I have very strong boundaries with that. And I think you do too, Marla. You know when to say no.
Yeah, of course. And then I bang my head against the wall. But, it's better to do that than do something that you're going to be sorry for. And there will be a question. We got to take another break. But when we come back, there's a question that's talking about if either of us have messed up magically and knew the messed up, and how did we fix it. So,
cool.
So we'll think about that. And we'll be back in, I guess, another couple of minutes. Yeah?
I can wait. You can wait. We'll be okay.
Cauldron will be right back, so don't go away. If you end up with webbed feet, remember, you've been warned.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Are you haunted by shadow people in the middle of the night?
Do you secretly love all things creepy and spooky, enjoying ghost stories and horror fiction from the best storytellers?
Do you have a true ghost experience you want to share, but no one will believe you?
If yes, listen to the professionals on What Are You Afraid Of? Horror Paranormal Show Friday nights at 9 p.m. on Para X Radio and at www.whatareyouafraidofpodcast.com.
What Are You Afraid Of on Para X?
Our creepy and demented hosts are on call to provide you with all your spooky needs with true ghost stories, interviews, indie music, and new horror fiction. We are ready to scare you.
Para X. Missed an episode of Stirring the Cauldron? Then be sure to check out marlabrooks.com and check out the archive. And while you're there, check out Marla's weekly Witches Oracle card reading. Explore the site to find many great resources, such as information on tarot, oracle readings, metaphysical consultations, and links to all of Marla's books. That's marlabrooks.com. Welcome back to Stirring the Cauldron. Once again, here's your host, Marla Brooks.
Well, actually, it's the Marla and Lillee show tonight. The witches have taken over. Yeah.
I'll be stirring by the end of the night. You never know.
Yeah, well, get the temperature right on the cauldron and you'll be fine. Let's do this thing about the question, have either of you messed up magically? Knew you messed up, and how did you fix it? And mine's real quick and easy. When you're young and stupid and you don't know everything, but you think you know, I did a banishing spell on somebody because it was called for, but I didn't realize that banishing spells can be pretty nasty. And it was, the one that everybody uses, let's put them in the freezer, put their name in the thing and freeze them, and, then they can't hurt you anymore or anything like that. So I did that, with all the pomp and circumstance and everything. And about 6 months later, I heard from somebody else that person they met up with that person, and that person said, I've been really ill, and I've not been feeling good, and this woman just out of the blue said, yeah, but I think somebody put a spell on me. And, that kind of got me. And so I fixed it by thawing her out. And it sounds funny, but, you learn from that. Banishing spell might not have been the right spell, but I thought, okay, I'm going to banish them, but you're freezing them. And sometimes it actually works when you do it with enough intent. So that was it. Yeah, I learned a lesson from that. What about you?
Oh, my God. I've done so many mix-ups and messes that I've had to clean up myself. And that I want to just say, and you know this, Marla, you do not make other people clean up your stuff. If you've done something, then it's not turning out quite the way you intended, okay? It's up to you to fix it. And it may mean sometimes actually talking on this plane to the person as well as on another plane. But we've all done it. I don't mind freezing because I can always unfreeze them.
Yeah.
It's burning spells that I always, John really liked the burning spells, and I was sort of like but what if, if I just bury them, that's not terrible. And, if I freeze them, I can always unfreeze them.
Right.
And if I jar them, I'm just going to end up with a ton of jars in my basement. But, I can let them out. And I never could handle the burning. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I think many times I unfortunately did a mad love spell when I was in college. And I was angry about one guy, so I decided I had to, date his best friend. Well, I put out the spell sophomore year, and senior year he showed up at my door, the best friend.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Needless to say, I had a steady boyfriend, and it was sort of hard to explain to everybody. And I felt the only way to deal with it was to tell him the truth, and I did. And he thanked me for telling him the truth. I never heard from him again, but I deserved that, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's okay. I have sent, energy to people, and you think that sending energy is a good thing, right? How many times would it say, send me energy for this, send me energy for this?
Yeah.
But there are people out there who can't handle it. And you're actually hurting them psychically.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to blow up or anything.
No.
But you're not helping the situation. And that's when you need to look at it and look at yourself and saying, you spent a lot of time sending that. It's time to take some back. And just balance it, right? And, I know with John, people were sending him healing.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, he said, I don't know if I can handle all this energy because it's going to take a long time. So people do feel things, okay? And the most wonderful thing is, when I tell somebody, I'm going to a interview, send me some energy at 3:00, right? That's Davron and I have always done with each other. But Davron and I can send the energy and we can both handle it. If you're sending it to someone who's not too well versed and you say, I'm going to send you some great energy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, you have to ask. If you're going to send somebody energy, they need to be forewarned because they might tell you no. I always ask, whether it's healing or something else, it's the permission that we need to ask. We just can't think that we're doing a good deed, and as you said, it could bite you back.
Well, the other problem with that is, and this is all I'm going to say about it, Marla, is, letting your friend borrow your car is good, right?
Mm.
But letting your friend who's drunk off her butt borrow your car is bad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you've really got to know whether your friend is in the right mind and body to drive your car. And even when they say to you, oh, I want energy, send me energy, okay, as a mature witch, you've got to really figure out, Sherry's saying what type. I do color energy. You know, with an interview, I send a lot of orange, which is putting together a good relationship, because let's face it, you don't want to come off as too good. You come in that you would fit into the company and you would get that job. And some people can't handle that. Okay. And you have to be, you know, it's so much fun when you're a little baby witch and you're sending energy here and energy there and healing light here. But, you know, I've gotten very angry with young, you know, witches who really don't know what they're doing, and they send green energy to someone who has cancer. You don't want it to grow. No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Not at all. So you have to know what you're doing and also know what you're sending. And that takes a lot of time and practice. Marla, it took me a good 3 years before I felt confident, okay, knowing what color I was sending when I really, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You've got a squirrel mentality like I do. Yes, I'm sending her red. She's going to have a wonderful evening. And then all of a sudden, squirrel, oh my goodness, now I'm sending brown. She's going to not want to touch him. What am I doing?
Yeah.
It's just, I saw the squirrel, and no, you've got to stick to what you're doing and take it seriously.
Yeah.
The biggest thing about this is we've all gone off on what I call very human endeavors. I'm angry, so I'm going to do this to that one. I'm happy, so I'm going to do this to that one, okay?
Yep.
Just, you know, John used to always say, you have to build yourself up to do a curse, but never do the curse on the initial energy. It's false. He compared it to morning wood. I won't go into that any further, but it's something that you think you've got and you don't, because you're so angry, you're not even seeing straight, okay? How are you going to do any kind of magic then?
Yeah.
Okay? It's just not right. That's one of the things. What do you think, Marla?
No, I think pretty much like you. You know, sometimes I wish we weren't so agreeable with each other, but we really are. And there's nothing in particular that I can add from that, because I think you covered all bases. And this is a really good question from Kathy that we would like to probably talk about. Outside of using white magic or gray magic, why do people get upset when they hear about black magic? If not used with evil intent, is all black magic evil? You know more about this than I do, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's not evil. In fact, when we were dealing with people who were stuck, in other words, they have attachments and, you know, they're stuck, John and I would work them, and I'd work the right side of their body while he would work on the left side. And we could pull anything out of them, okay? Yeah. And cleanse them and clear them. So, yeah, he was using black magic, right? But what was it for? It was good. Well, then was it white magic? No. Okay. To get into that a little further, remember, the left-hand path is more severe. The left-hand path sort of puts you, it's the mother in a lot of ways. It puts you on you don't yell at your mother, right? You do what she says, right? And it's a very severe path. The right-hand path is really going with the flow at all times, okay? And there's nothing that you can't do with the right-hand path that you can't do with the left hand. They both can be used. It's how you function it, okay? Now, with the right-hand path, it's usually seen as the father, okay? And so it's more of a learning curve, okay? And the mother comes out with the wooden spoon and slaps your fingers. Because, again, they, in my opinion, using black magic, It's far more immediate. They want it done now. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's far more taxing on their physical body. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that over and over again. Now, is that bad? If that's your path, that's your path.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you have to understand that there's consequences for any path we choose.
Sure.
And, that was something that John was very understanding of.
Mm-hmm.
That he, his end of his life, he recognized his right-hand path side and the left-hand path side, and he had balanced them.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all should do that, because in the end, it really doesn't matter what you did. It's, again, jumping off this plane to the next plane, and let's hope it's much better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, and this is where we see with people, and Marla, you can help me with this, but
mm-hmm.
I often see people who stay here, okay, after death, usually did not finish what they had to do. Okay, in other words, they didn't prepare themselves for death.
Mm-hmm.
If you're walking down the street and they stab you to death, it would be very easy to become a ghost, because 1 minute you were walking home safely and the next minute, you're bleeding to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's important, if you can, to build that acceptance as we get older.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard. Our generation is, I think, one of the mainstream, I don't know, I think we're one of the worst ones, because we're so busy trying to look young and stay young, and really it's okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind the fact that I can't jog around, the block anymore with my dogs. There was time for that, and it was fun. And walking, I'm thrilled if I can walk around the block with the dogs, and I say, this is really good, right? It's comfortable.
Yeah.
But this is where you need to, if you're talking to anyone or you're dealing with anyone who's dealing with and a coming death, and I think we all are dealing with a coming death.
Mm-hmm.
I get so upset with my peers. I don't know if you have this, Marla, where, I'll say to them, I have my stone, I have my this, I have my that. Are you all set?
Mm-hmm.
I'll say, oh, I'm not going to talk about that. That's bad luck. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. No, it's actually not. Okay. And to throw that on your next of kin when they're dealing with the loss of you is a little much.
Mm-hmm.
So, like anything, magic can be wonderful, but in the end, it's about action and consequences. And the blackest of magic still has the consequences, but if you're trying to remove, a memory or something, helping someone who's dealing with PTSD, let's say.
Yeah.
I can't see that as a curse, though some people, just because you said the word black magic, is saying that you're cursing them. No, not really. Black magicians can heal.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what? Black and white magic are good, but not all black is magic, or not all black is bad, not all white is good. Yep. It's the duality, the yin and the yang. You can't have one without the other. And if anybody ever says, I am so perfectly white magic, no, they're lying to themselves, because there's going to be some point in their life that they're going to cross that boundary out of necessity, not out of spite or anything. So, you need both, and that's why I always like being in the gray, because you kind of get it both ways.
And the gray is a nice place to be, or in the dust.
Yeah, right.
I have never ever said that, I'm Lillee White, okay? Mm-hmm. And even that, it has such a nasty, assumption. And these terms did come, they're racially based in a lot of ways, okay? Because in the black, right? If you hear that phrase, oh, my money, I'm in the black, that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about anything else, it's a bad thing. And so we need to reclaim the words and say, you know, it's like what John and I started doing was if you use the Kundalini effect and use the energy that's in your body and in the ground, it's going to go to one side and then the other. And that's the right and left hand path should be doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you meet in the middle. I mean, that's just simple, but people don't get that. There's one other question I just got in private message. Can you both answer this one if you can? Can you give us an idea of how you would go about doing a spell to help yourself be calm and at peace?
Oh, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
You can go first.
Well, me, I'm kind of doing, because, it depends who's doing it, but, I go the simplicity route. I do the thing about visual guiding and just trying to get somebody to just get relaxed is really difficult. I mean, we're all that way. But so sometimes I suggest a candle magic, using a white candle and just getting your mind clear. And when you're looking at a candle and trying to clear your mind, you could start feeling yourself relaxing a little bit more. Because most of these people that I've never had a witch ask me that, because I guess everybody has their own method. But, for a layperson, people think, well, no, I can't do a spell on myself. I can't, this isn't magic. Well, anybody can do a spell. And so I just kind of take the real easy way out and just do, I would tell them to do a candle magic, burn some incense at the same time, because a lot of people get okay with the incense and it makes them feel better. Really simple stuff. What about you?
I would say, first off, spend some time in a quiet room, okay? Preferably not a lot of light, not a lot of noise, and try to ask yourself very carefully, why am I not calm? And you might even do this before you go to bed. Please let me know why I'm not calm, okay? And you will find the answer will come to you. And what's hard about that is when I'm doing something like working with someone who just happens to be high-strung, high anxiety, okay, I would tell them to use blue lace agate, and I would tell them exactly like Marla, sit down in a dark room, put on a candle, do your incense if you want to do your incense. Lavender is always good, okay? And allow yourself to just float. Okay, and as you float, see what it is that is causing this problem. And it should eventually come to you. It depends on how far you've buried it, okay? Because that's what we do. We bury these problems and then they come up under other problems. Now, you're going to have some people who realize that they're a drama queen, but they love it and they want to stay the way they are. So they can lessen that a little bit. There's other people who have had real trauma in their lives. And so they're waiting for the next shoe to drop, and that's not being calm. And to allow your body to relax totally and accept the fact that if the shoe does drop, you're in a better situation to pick it up if you're nice and not stressed than if you're already stressed and shaking to pick up that shoe. And it's going to take time, but you've got to find, it's so easy to tell people, well, use this meditation, you'll feel so much better. And sure, but that's sort of a Band-Aid for finding out why it is you're not calm. Okay? As we know, there's love and hate are not really the two opposites here. It's love and fear. And if you're not calm, you're fearful, right?
Right.
And you could be fearful of something as simple as you were in a car accident before, and, the idea of going to work, just getting in the car may bother you, and you buried that, but you always feel tense when you're going to work. Is it my job? Well, no. Now you know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting that out of yourself and learning about that. And yes, you can go and see a psychiatrist or a psychologist if that you think will help. But honestly, sometimes it's just learning to know yourself and not being afraid to hear the things that sometimes are hard to hear.
Yeah. And I think guided visualizations work well, too. Somebody, sometimes people say, well, here's a book. It has a guided visualization in there. Do it. Well, you can't be reading it and doing it at the same time. You really need to have somebody coaching you along the way, I think. But it is a very relaxed. I did it. One of my friends is a psychiatrist, and he was just flipping out about something. And I said, well, I don't know if you believe in this, but you want to do it? And he says, yeah, let's try it. And he was amazed that it really worked. It got in his head, and he relaxed and figured out what was going on. So that's always an easy way to do it, too.
Yeah, and it makes you feel good to find out that you're normal, right?
Yeah.
We all have problems. We all have fear. Sherry's asking, love and apathy are opposite forces. Yes and no, because with love, okay, think of that Tom Cruise moment with Oprah or Ellen, where he was jumping up and down on the couch. I'm in love. I'm in love. Okay. Love takes energy. Love takes time. Okay. Apathy is the opposite of that. Apathy is not caring at all.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, there's an apathetic approach to not being in love, but even more, if you're afraid of something, you still have that heightened response, that fight or flight, and it's still going to wear you down. Love is not easy. No one ever said love would be easy. I think we all believe those stories when we're kids.
Mm-hmm.
When we actually love, you learn a lot about love.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we think we're in love and we're not.
Right. Takes a long time to figure that out, though. Yeah. So that's good. Wow, we're almost out of time. Jeez. Yes. We talked for 2 hours. It went pretty fast, huh?
It went fast. Absolutely. We'll do this again sometime. This is a fun thing, and I think we had a lot of good questions that really got us thinking. I know I'm going to be thinking of some different things, too.
Mm-hmm.
And, Marla, we, of course, will talk to you again. But, it may be not on a show, but,
we talk in private.
Yeah.
In person. Well, not in person, but voice to voice, yes, rather than...
And it's finding someone, like we talked about finding a mentor. Find people you can talk to. They don't have to be next door. Okay. Right. They can be where they need to be. And that in itself may be a wonderful thing. So thank you so much, Marla. This was a great idea you had, and I think we had a lot of fun.
And I think we will do it again. If everybody would like us to, we'll be here.
This has been The Cauldron and New Aeon Now, and we're saying goodnight on the Para X Radio Network.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Stirring the Cauldron with Marla Brooks. Please join us again next week at the same time for another great guest and more cauldron stirring. Any rebroadcast or other use of this program without explicit permission is strictly prohibited. Copyright 2024. The Mysterioso March by Kevin MacLeod is licensed through Incompetech.com.